Welcome back once again. We are still working on our DBQ, dealing with why Islam spread so quickly. Today we're going to look at steps 2 and steps 3, which you can find on page 99 and 101 in your DBQ packet. So as we go through these answers, or check your answers rather, I suggest you have this material out and making any corrections that you need to, or any additions, edits that you need to get the best possible score and best possible amount of information you need from these two pieces of evidence that can help you better understand this DBQ in preparation for your final paper. So, let's see what we're doing today. First, up for discussion, we're going to start reviewing and brief the background essay. You should have done the background essay before watching this video. If you've not done the background essay, please turn this off and do it. That goes with the background essay questions as well. Second, we'll check your answers and identify any mistakes. You should not be doing this if you have not already completed them. Obviously, you can't correct it if you didn't do it yet. Third, we'll move on and do the understanding the DBQ question and the pre-bucketing as well. Those were your homework for last night, if you recall. So please make sure that you are following along, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. And it's an important thing to be reminded of, that my answers may not necessarily be the same as your answers. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just as long as you understand why the answers that I picked, or the answers that I made available, could be the correct answers as well. This being a DBQ, there is no right or wrong answer necessarily, as long as you've got the information and in the end can back up your answer on why Islam had spread so quickly. We're just giving you some basic information right now. It's your job to figure out and prove why it spread so quickly. So, let's take a look. Before we do that, as I mentioned, please make sure you've completely read through the background essay on page 99 and that you've attempted the questions on page 101. Please do not go on unless you've done this. The purpose of this is to check your answers to make sure you understood what was said in the background essay. It is not for you to cheat, not for you to get ahead of yourself. It is to get you ready to better understand the purpose and the background of the essay in preparation for it. With that said, let's get started. Alright, background questions. Obviously, we have these 6 initial questions, so let's take them one at a time. Number 1, when and where did Muhammad first receive the words from Allah? Alright, this is actually right out of, and we'll take a look, right out of part 1, or paragraph 1, in our essay, or in our background essay, in 610 CE, merchant traders from Mecca. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, found a cave and Mount Hira. Right there in the middle of that first paragraph. So the answer is pretty much in black and white. Again, this is just a simple review to make sure you understood the basic information on who was there, when, what did he find, and where was he when he found it. Number 2, what were the 2 main ideas expressed by these words? Okay, so if you recall, the Archangel Gabriel, came up, found, and spoke to Muhammad, and gave him some ideas. 2 of these ideas that are the primary focus of the religion are found here in this 3rd paragraph on the bottom, which talks about specifically he spoke of the one God, Allah, and the importance of charity, or sharing the wealth with the weak and the poor. So make sure you understand that the foundations of Islam was the idea that there is only one God, which was kind of a questionable thing back then, as well as the importance of sharing your wealth among others to those that can't help themselves. Number 3, what were the 3 religious practices one could find in Mecca before Muhammad's revelations? Again, this is going right into our reading, obviously, and here we find right in the middle of the 2nd paragraph, it talks specifically about 3 religions. First of all, it talks about a pilgrim by Arab pagans. So pagans was one of them. And if you read a little bit further down, it talks about the Meccan population included members of Jewish families and some Christians. So we've got pagans, Jews, and Christians that made up the region at the time. Number 4. Why did Muhammad leave Mecca for Medina? So over here, we actually found that on the second column here on the right side, this is shortly after that he had started preaching his message to the people. So if you can actually find it here, the first paragraph on the second column, by 622, resistance was so strong that Muhammad decided to leave. So the reason was, obviously, there was so much resistance to people accepting his word. So he decided to get up, to leave, to get stronger, create this base station in Medina, and eventually, as you continue reading, he did come back later on. Number 5, can you explain why Muhammad's turning from Jerusalem and facing Mecca is called a symbolic break with the past? A symbolic break would change with special meaning. Why was this act significant? If you recall, and actually we'll just go back here, it talks about it right, where is it on here? Right here in the middle on the right column there. Okay. He also made a symbolic break with the past. Muhammad had respect for Jews and Christians. So he liked the Christians, he liked the Jews. He didn't have a problem with them. They were both believed in one God just like he did. Okay. They called him people of the book. So these are people that believe the same God that he does. However, at a prayer session, 624, Muhammad symbolically turned his body to the south, away from Jerusalem and towards Mecca. It was much as saying that a new religion had been born. Simply by turning on where he prayed to, again, for Jews and Christians, Jerusalem was the center of their religion. That's where their religions were founded, basically, for the most part. But by changing where he bowed to, basically said, I respect you as Christians and Jews, but I do not necessarily believe what you believe in its entirety. And I believe that God is not so much in Jerusalem as much as I believe that his presence is in Mecca. All right? So he's always pointing towards Mecca, which is where they believe the Spirit of God is. And finally, number 6, what are the 5 pillars of Islam? Those, again, were in your video that you watched from Crash Course. It's also down here on the bottom of the right side paragraph. He had soon had enough support to order that the idols of the Kaaba be destroyed and dedicated to Allah. Pilgrimages to Kaaba became one of the 5 pillars or essential duties of Islam. These duties, confessions of belief, that's 1. Prayer 5 times a day, that's 2. The Ramadan, which was a month-long fast, that's the 3rd one. Giving alms to the poor, or helping the poor, that's 4. And the pilgrimage to Mecca, once in your lifetime. Those 5 pillars would become the bedrock and the foundation of a lot of the key parts of the Islam religion. So, as you can see, all the answers you're looking for are simple to find in the background essay. You just have to take the 3 minutes to read it, and you can find the information pretty easily. The questions aren't there. They're not designed to be tricked. You just have to pay attention and take the time to read it. All right. Oops, let's go back. Sorry about that. So, now we got the definitions. Number 7. Define these terms. Allah. Simple. Allah was the name for their supreme being or God. Okay? For the Muslim religion. Pagan is one who believes in many gods. which was a common practice back then. They actually had different statues and figurines representing all the different gods to bow down to. But paganism was exactly that, believing in multiple gods back then, as compared to Christians and Jews who believed in only one God. The Kaaba. Kaaba was the holy shrine in Mecca. It's where people would go, they would take their idols, and they would pray at this particular shrine with their idols. Islam. Islam is the religion based on the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. So if you've heard of the word Islam and Muslim, they're actually one and the same. Islam is the religion. Muslim are the people who practice the religion. So you might hear those two terms kind of used interchangeably. But Islam, again, is the religion. Muslims are the people who practice the religion of Islam. Next term is the Quran. The Quran is the holy book of Islam. Again, these are the writings that were documented of what Muhammad what the Archangel Gabriel had told him. It was later on written down by Muhammad later on, as well as some of his predecessors after that, on what was actually said, which started creating basically what God had told them. The difference between the Quran and the Bible and the Torah from the Jews is that the Bible and the Torah, it's people wrote it with the inspiration of God. So they were written by man, written by people, as compared to the Quran, which they believe was actually written by God himself, not written by man. God himself gave these words, and that's what was written down. There's no middleman as far as the Quran is concerned in their faith. And the last term, Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Muslim year, where there's a month of fasting. So again, it's just a holiday for them, a fasting month, to remember the sacrifices that are made by many Muslims. And with that, it's a reminder to them to be aware of those that have sacrificed themselves, whether they're poor or not. But it's to recognize humility. Okay. All right. Moving on. So we are going to start talking about understanding the question, which is our third part of our DBQ, which you can find on page 103. This was your homework, part of your homework last night, so please have this out. If you've not finished it, please wait until you have finished it, and then you can fast forward to this part of the video. So, let's get started. What is the analytical question? The analytical question is simply, what is the question we're trying to answer? Well, if you've got your DBQ packet, you can turn to the front cover and the front page, and I don't know where my copy is, but basically the question is, why did the Islam religion spread so fast, or spread so quickly? Okay, it's at the top of the title of your DBQ. Actually, I found it. There it is. Why did Islam spread so quickly? That is your title. That is your topic. That is the question we are trying to answer. So, number 2, what terms in the question need to be defined? So, from these, 6 words? From these 6 words, which of these 6 words do you might not understand or are questioning on? Hopefully you know the word why. Hopefully you know the word did. Islam, that's kind of an iffy one, so maybe you want to put that down. Spreading and so quickly, I would also hope that you know as well. So I'm guessing the only one you might have a question about is Islam, which is kind of what this DBQ is trying to get you some more information on, as well as the background essay. So in my opinion, if you have any of those words that don't make sense, it's probably the word Islam. Alright, number 3, rewrite the question in your own words. This is, again, knowing how to paraphrase, saying the same information, in this case, the same question, in a different way. You can reword it, you can completely change a couple words out, or you can just completely redo the entire sentence. The purpose of this is to make sure that you understand what the question is asking. So, for example, we have Why did Islam spread so quickly? Let's say, for example, we could change that up and say something along the lines of, Islam spread so quickly. Why? Okay, you can kind of put a comma in there, or a semicolon, just to indicate that it's the same thing, it's still a question, but it's in different words. Okay, you can change it somewhere along the lines of, let's see, why was Islam so popular that it spread as fast as it did? Same kind of a question, you're going to get the same answer, but it's just worded a little differently. Those are a couple different suggestions that I have. Feel free to make your own. I encourage you to make your own, just to make sure that you understand what you are going to have to answer in the end. All right? Now comes the more tricky part, is your bucket list. Okay? So the directions, using clues from the mini-Q question, suggest general analytical categories and label the buckets. What you can do with this, it gives you 4 buckets. You can get some of your ideas from our hook activity. You can also get some of your ideas from the background essay. And again, this is kind of where things get a little tricky and kind of confusing, because it talks about trade, for example, that Muhammad moved around. He was a trader, he was a merchant. It talks about that people were following him around. It talks about Muhammad was actually going from place to place. Okay. In one of our, if you look at the crash course, it talks about how Islam had spread from as far away as Spain. So I'm sure that they moved somewhere. I don't think the people necessarily left those areas willingly. So if I go to Spain and they say, yes, you're Islam, are they going to say okay? Or might they have a little battle and duke it out a little bit? Okay, so maybe there's a little bit of battle and conquest involved. Okay, so think about all the different possible ways of why Islam could have changed this region of the world. Why people would be changing, or what would cause people to change their religion. Okay, or what would cause Islam to spread as fast as it did. Think about that and write some thoughts down. There's no right or wrong answer here. The important thing is to brainstorm. Get some thoughts. We're looking for, again, 4 ideas here. And we'll see what you come up with. Moving on. Taking what you've done so far and start to consider that bucket list and how it's, start thinking about what you wrote down, rather, and how it might be similar to the 6 documents coming up in our reading. As you're going through those documents, check to see if any of those documents might support one of the things in your bucket list. You can use that evidence to support your theory on why maybe trading was a reason why, or why conquering was the way why, or one of the reasons why that Islam spread. Think about all these documents and what you put down. If you find something that doesn't, if you look at one of your documents and it doesn't necessarily match with any of your buckets, don't throw it out. Just kind of remember that it's there. Maybe make a little notation on the side of that, on that document, saying, well, this document is kind of about this, which wasn't on my list. Because maybe later on, you might end up changing your bucket list. And that's perfectly fine. That can happen. Sometimes it should happen. So again, think of, as you're looking through, do any of these documents back up any of those 4 buckets that you just completed? All right? And with that, I am done for part 2 and part 3 of the DBQ. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be coming around to check off and sign off that these were done already. So please make sure that I have done that once you are completed. Going forward, you can start working on your parts, was it 4, which is your documents, and I will be helping you with that as well through the videos, or you can do those on your own. And with that, have a great day, good luck, and I'll see you next time.